host of new medical devices have come to market in recent years that have changed the way that doctors treat degenerative conditions and injuries to the spine. One company at the forefront of those new technologies is K2M. The company has completed its initial public offering and trades here at the NASDAQ market site in New York City. I'm Kelsey Hubbard, and I'm pleased to talk with the company's CEO, Eric Major, for the NASDAQ CEO Signature Series. Eric, welcome. Thank you so much, and congratulations on
Thank
your
you,
new
Kelsey. Good morning.
Good morning to you. So tell us a little bit about what your company does in terms of the devices that you produce and sell to doctors and hospitals to treat spinal injuries.
So as an organization, we focus on treating the most difficult spinal pathologies. So really the tough conditions. When you were in grade school or middle school and the nurse or the pediatrician would check your back to see if you had a curve, that's called scoliosis. It's a deformity of your spine, and sometimes that'll progress. You will need a brace, and then over time, if it continues to progress, you might need surgical intervention. We develop leading innovative technology and techniques that we provide to surgeons who treat those types of conditions, and that's where we focus. That's where we've focused as an organization and continue to innovate in that space.
And speaking of innovative, you've actually brought a lot of devices to market in the last couple of years. I believe 11 since 2011, and that's really significant considering the regulatory hurdles that come into this. How does that play into your ability to bring things to market?
Sure. You know, the regulatory environment is always changing. But what we have to do as an entrepreneurial focused organization is continue to find ways to innovate. I'm really proud of the way the team does it at K2M. We have a global team, right, of experts around the world. We have 40 biomechanical engineers and designers on staff, over 20 in the product development team, and that group of 60 really focuses on what are the needs of the surgeon, you know, talking to surgeons and asking them what they need to help treat these most difficult spinal pathologies, and then coming together and bringing really, our focus is 5 to 8 new products or line extensions, innovation every single year.
Wow, so what does that mean for patients? From what they had in the past to what they can now expect with these new devices that are coming to market, if they do have a degenerative condition or if they do get a spinal injury?
Well, ultimately, our objective is to provide these unique technologies and perhaps new techniques to the surgeons who are treating these patients. So what we're trying to do is provide those surgeons with technologies that allow the surgeon to perhaps get a better correction of the spine, do the procedure faster, or through a minimally invasive approach so that they get back to work or back to school faster, less incidence of things potentially like blood loss, intraoperatively, or post-operative infections, things like that.
So they can recover more quickly and
exactly,
things like that.
That's right. Yeah.
All right, great. Well, let's talk a little bit about the numbers. You had revenue of more than $157 million last year. That's up 17% from the year before, and up substantially in the last 5 years, 160%. That's quite a revenue growth there. And you did post a $37 million loss. So let's give investors a snapshot of where you are today as you're going public and what they can expect as your strategy going forward.
So as an organization, we're growing globally. We're a global business. We're in 29 countries. And our objective is to really get exposure. And that's part of going public and partnering with the NASDAQ is to get that global expansion. So our objective going forward is to continue to deliver 14 to 16% growth on an annual basis. Our objective, we've invested heavily. So those losses in the past couple of years is because of that investment in people, our engineering team, our distribution sales force, and really to build out to grab market share. So I think over, clearly as we move forward to continue to deliver that growth, to move towards an EBITDA positive model and then profitability and a taxpayer.
And talking about growth, you always have to, of course, acknowledge the competition out there. Johnson & Johnson, I know Medtronic makes a lot of these spinal devices as well. How do you set yourself apart in this industry? When if you look at it, there are sort of a finite amount of specialized spinal surgeons in this country and in the world. How do you get them to choose K2M devices over, say, the competition?
So I think you hit it right, the nail right on the head, because when you said there's only a finite number, because of that, a company the size of K2 can develop and develop innovation and get exposure to those surgeons just like Medtronic and J&J. Look, there's a number of spine companies that develop very good products. But what we have to do is provide the surgeons with forward-thinking innovation. We have to be responsive to their needs. If they have, from our prototyping perspective, listening to the changes in the environment and frankly moving faster, being very responsive and continuing to innovate and frankly wrap intellectual property around that innovation from a global perspective.
And let's talk a little bit about the new Affordable Care Act, because there's been a lot of talk about how that affects companies. And as the CEO of a company that provides medical devices to hospitals and doctors, two groups that will be under a lot of pressure to keep costs down, how do you navigate that? What are the changes coming down the pike that you think will affect your company?
I think the first part of that answer is access to care is critical globally, not just here in the United States, but anywhere in the world. We got to take care of patients, right? The Affordable Health Care Act, though, is still trying to find its way. We don't know exactly where that's going to fall out. There's a lot of discussion and debate around it. At the end of the day, as an entrepreneurial company that's bringing new innovation to these surgeons, K2M has got to find a way to maneuver through that path. So there is change. There's a lot of dynamic change. There's pressures in the industry because of that. But I think as a company our size that is expanding quickly, we can also move and change as we meet the needs of that changing environment and, frankly, the changing laws around the Affordable Health Care Act.
Right. You say you're moving quickly. 30% growth overseas. How much of that is part of your strategy going forward? Of course, now that you're a public company, you'll be looking to expand, I'm sure, further in that direction. Tell us your plans.
Absolutely. So we're in 29 countries. And I often get asked that question, why are you so global already? You know, about 50% of our unit sales go outside the United States. So very much a global business with a global community of employees that really work together with this focused passion. Why are we that way? Because the network of deformity surgeons and surgeons who treat the most difficult spinal pathologies is a global network. And the surgeons in Australia know the surgeons in Ireland and the United Kingdom who know Italy and the ones in the United States, right? So because of that, we have to bring our technologies to those surgeons. So we will continue to grow globally and go deep in each of those countries that we grow into.
And you had a private equity infusion in 2010 that allowed you, or at least facilitated a lot of these new devices coming to market. Do you plan to keep up that pace of new devices, or tell us a little bit about the strategy going forward?
Sure. So we did go through a transaction in 2010 which brought in the capital to allow us to scale our business, to really go from what was disruptive technology early on that's now proven. In fact, our core technology called Mesa, we've treated over 30,000 patients with that technology. So really a proven platform. But what that capital allowed us to do was it allowed us to do what you said, and that was scale with new products and the global expansion. So yes, part of the use of proceeds of this IPO is to allow us to continue to innovate at K2M with 5 to 8 new products a year, continue to grow into each of these new countries. Some countries were pretty mature in already. Some cities in the United States were very mature in, but in other areas, I call them greenfield opportunities, where we're still early into those countries or early into those cities that really set the pace or the foundation for us to be able to really continue to deliver growth.
Okay, now you brought a device here. Let's take a look at this and explain to us sort of what this is and how you make this and what the purpose of it is for patients.
Today we have 57 different products at K2. So this really only demonstrates a few of the products that we have. But one of our gold standards and the foundation product for us is this product. We call this Mesa, and this is a product that was developed, and our first case was done in 2006, and today we've done over 30,000 patients with this platform. What we do is we take technology and bring it to surgeons so that when those patients we talked about earlier have a scoliosis or a curvature of their spine, what we need to provide is the instruments, and what I don't have here today is the instrumentation intraoperatively in the theater of the OR for the surgeons to be able to move the spine, manipulate the spine, and once they get it in place, lock it down to help that that patient recover and really have a much better life going forward. And so the way we do that with this particular technology, and what's interesting about it, is not only the way that it locks and provides a surgeon the ability to move the spine around, but you'll notice it's very smooth on top. Yeah. We call that low profile. The reason that's important is we want to try to keep this as low as possible so that the patients, after surgery, are not feeling these implants in their spine.
Right. Interesting. And it looks like here, that for growth, obviously they can move them up and down and treat them afterwards. It's interesting.
There's all types of things that the technology allows you to do. Sometimes you have to come back for a second surgery. We want to be able to build off of that, and that's what some of these technologies allow us to do. All
right, so investors are taking a look at your company today after going public and trading under the symbol KTWO. We should note as well. What do you want them to know? What do you think that they need to know about your company and your plans going forward?
Yeah, I think the important thing to know is that we're in a unique space in what we call the complex spine. The market of spine is a $10 billion market. The 57 products we have today compete in that $10 billion market. But the subsegment of that market of complex spine is about a $1.2 billion market globally. Right? Our objective is, can we continue to develop, and I believe we can at K2M, innovative technologies so that surgeons recognize that they're helping them treat patients and grab a dominant market share in that $1.2 billion segment, and then we pull along the other pieces of the marketplace. And so today our primary competitors in that space are Medtronic and J&J, who have great products, but we believe that to win in that space, what we have to do is continue to innovate and to our investors deliver that top line growth and move towards profitability.
All right, well, we wish you the best. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Absolutely, thank you.
We appreciate it. I've been speaking with Eric Major, the CEO of K2M. I'm Kelsey Hubbard at the NASDAQ market site in New York City for the CEO Signature Series.